Read and listen. Mayci Neeley shares her heartbreaking experience of finding out her son's father died, exclusive. In her new memoir, Told You So, Mayci Neeley, 30, talks candidly about one of the most vulnerable times in her life. The death of her son Hudson's father, Arik Mack, who had an intermittent relationship with her before his tragic 2015 accident. When asked about the process of writing regarding her relationship with Arik, both of whom were 19 at the time, she explains, "Because I do talk about the heartbreak of being cheated on, and I feel like part of me didn't want to share it, because I was like, I don't want to contaminate the tale in any way. At the end of the day, it is my son's father, and I always want to look good, and I want my son to have positive things to read. And I will say that the majority of the book is very positive about it. However, I think that going through that and then him dying literally within an hour of learning about it was so intense and confusing for me to deal with the emotion of being upset at him, and then all you feel is love and sadness." According to a 2023 family YouTube video, Mayci is the mother of Hudson, as well as daughters Harlow, 4.5, and Charlie, 10 weeks, with husband Jacob Neeley, who also legally adopted Hudson. "I only have love, and I feel like I will always have a piece of him in my heart." When someone passes away, all you think about is the good times, and that's why I'm happy to remember. Overall, our relationship was very happy and positive. We never fought. Everything was always amazing. We just had that one situation, and it sucks. Writing the book put Mayci back in the grief process, but she accepts that she will always have A. It was so much better with Arik than my abusive relationship. I tell my parents even to this day, I would do my relationship with Arik over and over and over again than having to do one more day with my abuser. Mayci also talks about surviving an abusive relationship before starting a new one with Arik by sharing her candid experience. She hopes to give Hudson, 10, a fair picture because sharing his memory so that it's alive with. Arik's text ends with a single letter J. "I don't understand why he hasn't finished his thought until my mom takes me out to lunch that afternoon. On the day of my boyfriend's death, I'm scrolling through Instagram at our usual table when I see a picture of Arik on my timeline with the caption, R.I.P. He crashed his car while texting me. He loves me. He'll never forgive himself for hurting me while I'm pregnant with his baby." The pregnant youngster thought the post was a joke at first, but then it was joined by other tributes and links to news reports about the crash that killed Arik, making the situation seem unreal. I have 300 Instagram followers that night. Sitting on my parents' couch, I browsed through dozens of posts about Arik, including images of him playing baseball, smiling at the camera and laughing with his family. I also see screenshots of news reports about the crash that killed him, images of people crying and broken heart emojis, all mixed in with the typical Instagram content, which includes blurry selfies, food porn, and a mediocre sunset. These happy pictures seem to have been posted from another universe, bringing back memories of my scholarship and Division I tennis career at Brigham Young University. When I found out that Arik had cheated on me just hours before he passed away, I was devastated and said the cruelest things I could think of, that he would never see me again, that he would never see his child unless it was in court, and that I would never forgive him. I feel like I should post something, but I don't. In the aftermath, Mayci struggled with grief while navigating her pregnancy, knowing her child would never get to meet their dad. How could I describe on Instagram what it felt like to learn, at that seedy restaurant with my mom, that Arik died while texting me to ask for forgiveness, to tell me that I deserve better, to say that he loved me? You'll meet someone else. You're still young. You have plenty of time to find a father for your baby. You don't look that sad in the pictures you post on Instagram. God has a plan for you. I've always known that God has a plan for everyone, but I don't understand why mine is so ass. What do people say when you're 14 weeks pregnant and your boyfriend dies? Mayci, who had experienced sexual violence and abuse and was now facing single parenthood and an unclear future, struggled to balance feelings of gratitude for the love she did receive from her family with depression over what her life as a mother may entail. Suicidal thoughts were a result of her low points. By the age of 20, I've already been raped and drugged, left an abusive relationship, fallen in love with someone wonderful, and become pregnant without warning. My mother is so concerned about me that she brings an extra mattress into her bedroom. so she can watch me while I stare at the ceiling in the middle of the night after Arik's death. The following 7 months are a gray, melancholy haze. I considered death several times, and even the simplest things like getting out of bed, eating breakfast, and taking the online courses that would keep me eligible to play tennis at the NCAA seemed difficult. My Instagram feed doesn't show me crying depressing music while taking a shower or writing in my journal that I want to die. Instead, I share pictures of myself holding a starfish to cover up my enormous belly, and another of me grinning on a cruise ship, while acting like I'm not considering jumping overboard. Mayci ends the account with a clarity that only time can give, offering some advice to her younger self. Looking back on that 20-year-old clutching the railing and considering drowning herself in the sea, I want to reassure her that things will get better, that she will forgive herself, and that despite the unexpectedness of this pregnancy, she will love her child unconditionally and fight for her future children. I want to assure her that she will experience another love in a big, beautiful, dramatic way, that she will learn to live her life without fear of criticism, that she will eventually hear the term soft swinging and realize that it refers to the scandal that led her to reality TV, and most importantly, that the trauma and tragedy she has endured will not define her, and that she should not feel guilty about any of her mistakes. Told You So is now available for pre-order wherever books are sold. If you or someone you know is experiencing mental health issues, emotional distress, substance abuse issues, or simply needs to talk, call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org, which is open 24/7. Told You So will be published on Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. The story of Mayci Neeley, as laid bare in Told You So, is not merely a memoir of one woman's grief, but a profound testament to the resilience of the human spirit when life delivers its harshest blows. In her telling, she does not romanticize tragedy or present healing as a linear path. Instead, she reveals the messy, contradictory, and deeply human realities of surviving loss, betrayal, abuse, and depression while still carving out a life of meaning and love. That honesty is precisely what gives her narrative its power. It resonates because it does not attempt to sanitize suffering, but instead acknowledges that healing often coexists with pain. For Mayci, the loss of Arik was not only the loss of a partner, but the collapse of a set of dreams, the idea of raising a child together, of reconciling after betrayal, of giving her son the father he deserved. When those possibilities shattered in an instant, she was left with both unbearable grief and unresolved anger. What makes her story remarkable is the way she eventually came to hold those emotions together without denying either. She did not bury her anger to preserve his memory, nor erase her grief to justify his mistakes. She chose to tell the story in full, embracing contradiction, because that is what it means to tell the truth. In this way, her memoir functions as more than a personal account. It becomes a meditation on legacy. Her son Hudson will never know his biological father firsthand. The only version of Arik he will inherit comes through stories, photographs, and memories retold. Mayci shoulders the weight of curating that legacy, striving to preserve dignity while refusing to distort reality. This delicate balance reflects the broader challenge we all face when speaking of those we've lost. How to honor their humanity without ignoring their flaws, how to remember the love without erasing the hurt. By showing her son that his father was both imperfect and deeply loved, she gives him the gift of authenticity rather than illusion. Beyond the personal, Mayci's account resonates because it confronts issues still under-discussed in society. She speaks of abuse, sexual violence, suicidal thoughts, and the crushing isolation of grief. She describes masking her despair with cheerful social media posts, a truth that highlights the performative nature of digital culture. Her vulnerability pulls back the curtain on the illusion of perfection that dominates influencer spaces, reminding us that even the most composed appearances may hide storms beneath the surface. In this sense, her story does cultural work. It challenges the stigmas that keep so many silent and invites more honest conversations about pain, survival, and resilience. Equally significant is the way her memoir intersects with questions of religion and identity. Raised in the Mormon faith, she navigated cultural expectations of purity, obedience, and silence. Choosing to tell her story publicly, naming abuse, admitting to pain, and refusing to present herself as unblemished, constitutes a form of quiet rebellion against those pressures. It is a declaration that truth, however messy, has greater power than appearances. In this, her book becomes more than autobiography. It becomes testimony, a voice that speaks on behalf of countless others who have endured trauma in silence. What lingers most after reading about Mayci's journey is the reminder that grief never disappears. It transforms. For years after Arik's death, she carried the weight of guilt and sorrow. She struggled to imagine a future, to reconcile her loss with the demands of motherhood. Yet over time, she found love again, built a family, and learned that joy can return without erasing sorrow. This coexistence of grief and joy is perhaps the deepest truth of the human experience. Healing does not mean forgetting. Survival does not mean erasing scars. It means carrying them forward as part of who we are, by choosing to share her scars with the world. Mayci reframes them not as marks of weakness, but as evidence of endurance. She demonstrates that even amid betrayal, tragedy, and despair, it is possible to rebuild a life worth living. She models self-forgiveness, showing that guilt need not be permanent. And she extends hope to others who may feel trapped in their darkest moments. For every reader who has wondered whether the pain will ever end, her story whispers, "You are not alone, and the story is not over." And so, the conclusion we draw from Mayci Neeley's journey is not one of finality, but of ongoing resilience. Her memoir is not a neat resolution tied with a bow. It is an open acknowledgement that grief, trauma, and healing are lifelong processes. But it is also proof that pain does not have to define us, that survival is possible even when the odds seem impossible, and that love can bloom again in the aftermath of loss. In reclaiming her story, Mayci shows us that while we cannot rewrite the past, we can write the future, and that act of writing, of choosing to live fully in spite of sorrow, is itself a triumph. Told You So is, in the end, more than the story of a young woman who lost the father of her child. It is a story of a survivor who refused to be silenced, a mother who turned heartbreak into a lesson of love, and a woman who transformed her deepest pain into a message of hope. It is an invitation to all of us to embrace our stories, no matter how fractured, and to believe that even in the ruins of loss, new life can still emerge.